Without a doubt, one of the most popular suburbs of Greater Charlotte is Fort Mill, South Carolina. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the top pros and cons of living in Fort Mill. So stick around, we're going to jump right in. Quick timeout. If this is your first time to the channel, I'd like to invite you to like and subscribe to the channel so you can be updated every time we come out with a new video every single week about living in South Charlotte areas just like Fort Mill. Make sure you subscribe so we will let you know. I'm Jarrell with the Longleaf group, and I love helping people just like you every single day looking to make the move to the South Charlotte area. Make sure you reach out. All of our information is below. Whether it's the next 9 days or 90 days, we'd absolutely love to help you. With all that said, let's jump back in and learn some more about the pros and cons of Fort Mill. Located right on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina, Fort Mill is just south of the Greater Charlotte area and just southeast of the Lake Wylie area. So you're only about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes from Fort Mill to Uptown. So the location definitely plays in the favor of Fort Mill because you're not that far and you're not right in the middle of the Uptown area. So you've got all of the benefits of being in the Fort Mill area that we'll talk about and not far from the Greater Charlotte area. So if you're working in Uptown Charlotte, you're able to live in South Carolina or Fort Mill, be able to commute back and forth. You've got the benefit of Charlotte's sports teams, the Panthers, you've got basketball, all these things in the Greater Charlotte area, and you're in Fort Mill and all the things that we'll talk about, including taxes. Huge benefit of living in South Carolina versus North Carolina, Mecklenburg County, I should say, in general. Your taxes are going to be lower in the South Carolina area. Fort Mill in general is a little bit higher than the greater or the surrounding South Carolina area because of some of the benefits that being in Fort Mill and York County offer residents with that tax revenue for property taxes. But living in South Carolina definitely has its benefits, and living right on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina and commuting to Uptown have some huge benefits, and why York County, and I should say Fort Mill in general, have had a huge increase in interest over the past 10 plus years, and have seen its growth that we see today. Now, if you're commuting back and forth from Uptown to South Carolina in general, you're gonna see a difference in the quality of roads. In South Carolina, definitely, as you're commuting, you can tell a difference in the upkeep of roads in South Carolina versus North Carolina. Definitely, in my opinion, it's a downside of living in South Carolina is the roads just aren't kept up as much as North Carolina. And also on that same side, the congestion, especially in Fort Mill, has continued to increase, and the traffic, especially during rush hour. The more people that move, the more congestion, the more infrastructure that's needed is going to continue to be needed in York County and Fort Mill because of the popularity in the area. So you've got congestion, you've got roads that aren't up to the North Carolina standard for roads, and you've got, as I mentioned, all of the other downside that comes with congestion. So without a doubt, one of the top reasons we're also hearing about making the move to Fort Mill is hugely beneficial is the schools. Now, whether you have a family, have children, or just really like to see your home appreciate, schools are important. And the Fort Mill schools, whether it's Fort Mill High School, Catawba Ridge, there are the highest rated schools, some of the highest rated schools in the Greater Charlotte area, or are just south of the border of North Carolina. And it can be surprising at times when you see these ratings, but the schools, the quality, all of the ratings, whether you're on GreatSchools.org, are super high and across the board. So you've got great schools, and another positive is the awesome amenities and the family-friendly recreation that are available, including Ann Springs Greenway, that if you haven't seen our video earlier, we cover the Ann Springs Greenway, and it's just a fantastic preserved conservatory park right in the heart of the Fort Mill area. So awesome opportunities for families to not have to drive far, whether it's for schools or parks and recreation right in the Fort Mill area. So let's talk about the downside of the growth of Fort Mill and the popularity, the schools, the homes, and everything going on. And that is, we're starting to see some overcrowding of the schools, congestion. You can imagine the overcrowding in general. It's becoming very congested, and both in the homes in the area as well as the schools. So the infrastructure is going to have to continue to grow, and they are. Fort Mill is definitely investing in the schools and continuing to add to the infrastructure, but with that is going to come additional taxes. We're definitely going to see, which we are already, the taxes for Fort Mill are increasing higher than what they are in general in the greater South Carolina area. Still below North Carolina and Mecklenburg County, but in order to keep up with the pace of growth in the area and the needs for the schools, those taxes are going to have to continue to increase to keep up with the popularity of the area. So I mentioned the schools as being a popular reason for families and individuals to make the move to an area like Fort Mill. Well, let's talk about one of my favorite things to do, which is to eat. And the Fort Mill area has some awesome dining options, and if you're trying to find something to do on a weekend or weeknight, they've got a great downtown area, as well as Baxter Village, downtown, town center, that has some great dining options, tree-lined streets. The downtown area has a more historic feel, whereas Baxter Village is a newer build town center, both walkable with restaurants lining each side and small businesses lining the streets. But if you're looking for something to do, Fort Mill has all of those, and they've really done a great job, especially with the Baxter Village area, for new construction homes that have popped up, and it has its own feel within a historic area like Fort Mill to have their own town center. And like I said, the downtown Fort Mill area has a lot of things to do and great place to eat, which is my favorite. So huge positive for living in Fort Mill. When we look at the cost of living in Fort Mill, in the grand scheme of things, the cost has been below the average you've seen across the country, especially if you're moving from across the country or different parts of the country. But the cost of living in Fort Mill has definitely increased, and it's going to continue to increase as the popularity, people make the move, whether it's from the Charlotte area down south or from across the country, because of all of the reasons we've described. But the cost of living and just the overall cost of homes in the area has increased. But on the positive side, that does add to the appreciation of homes for those that own homes in the area. And whether it's the new subdivisions and homes that are popping up like Baxter Village, or people that have held onto their homes over the years, that appreciation is there, but it makes it really tough from an affordability standpoint to make the move and call Fort Mill home. So we're going to have to see more homes continue to be built in the Fort Mill area to keep up with the demand for sure. So you've got great schools, you've got a growing community with all the things that you need to keep active, whether it's hiking, trails, family-friendly activities, lower taxes, and then on the downside, continuing to increase cost of living, all the things you'd see with a growing area that need to keep up with a growing area. I'm curious your thoughts. Is Fort Mill an area you would consider? Are there questions you continue to have about the Fort Mill area? Definitely reach out. I'm very interested in your thoughts. I'm Steve Jarrell with the Longleaf Group, and absolutely love helping people just like you every single day make the move to the greater Charlotte area and answer questions along the way. So make sure to reach out. Until next time, I'm Steve Jarrell, and we will see you then.